And the updates about Raphinha, according to the Evening Standard, Tottenham have now made contact with Leeds United over a potential deal with Raphinha, with Gary Jacob following that on with the Times, saying Tottenham have made contact with Leeds regarding Raphinha, with the player keen on playing Champions League football. Leeds are expecting an approach from Arsenal. However, the winger is believed to favour a move to Barcelona. Obviously, that's not groundbreaking news, but with Raphinha looking to potentially play Champions League football next season, could that put us in the driving seat, or do you think with Arsenal maybe a bit more desperate to sign him, they maybe could push the boat out a bit and maybe they could get a march on us, and we could be looking at other signings like Richarlison and people like him? So does that put Arsenal in the driving seat, or do you think the fact that we have Champions League football, we have that extra thing to offer him, does that put us in the driving seat?
I think you got to look at it with the player coming out and saying Champions League is what I'm looking for. Then it's got to put us in the driving seat, hasn't it? You would think. The only thing that them lot down the road could obviously answer or provide is a higher wage, as we've seen what they've done with Ozil, Aubameyang, the ridiculous wage they put Nketiah on. I think Arsenal are more eager to offer a higher wage than we will. But if it's Champions League football he wants and it's England he stays, it should only be us, really, shouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And especially because we need the bigger squad, maybe. Arsenal maybe could afford to play a weakened team in Europa League, especially in the early stages, whereas we're playing Champions League football. We need pretty much another 11 that can come in of similar ability. And we've obviously heard from Conte, from Alistair Gold, that Conte wants to get the idea out of the players' heads that there's a starting 11, and he wants to get the idea in their heads that, look, there's going to be a squad, we're going to have to use every player, there's going to be a lot of rotation. So I think from that point of view, Raphinha is going to see Tottenham as an exciting project, and maybe we can convince him to come to Spurs, as much as maybe Arsenal at the moment, with the way they're going about their business, they might be a bit more desperate for him, just to maybe show some ambition, and the fact that we've got other targets. So maybe we're waiting to see how those other targets pan out before we go in on Raphinha. But if we wait too long, we can end up losing him.
Well, this is the risk, and we keep talking about this with the squad, and like you said, what he said, we don't want to have it as a starting 11 and then a backup or competition. You look at players, Liverpool and Man City. When Liverpool signed Diaz and Jota, they already knew that they have a very firm front three, but they still go there and they use rotation. And look how far they advance in certain cup competitions. Look, they're regularly competing on all fronts, and that's what we want. That's what we want. Not saying we're there yet, but if we're gonna do it, it's gonna be by squad rotation, game management, people playing certain minutes, and this is what we need to do. It's not a first 11 and you can't dislodge this player because he's better than you. We need to have a squad and utilise it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. It'd be interesting to see how serious we are on someone like Raphinha, because he is going to cost between 55 to 60 million pounds, you know, considering the quality of player, how well he's done at Leeds, and that would be a very serious show of intent if we were to get him through the door. But also does still beg the question in terms of how does Harry Kane get a rest if we do go big on someone like Raphinha, because he isn't, unlike Richarlison, he isn't used to playing up front that much. So where does he fit in if Kane needs a rest? How do we go about playing that front three? Does it mean Raphinha going on the left and then putting Son up top? Maybe that's a possibility, because Raphinha has played on the left quite a lot. Or is it a case of we need to sign a striker as well as signing Raphinha, and that could cost an extra 50 million?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I agree with you that if Kane does rest, it looks like Son gets pushed up front, and then Raphinha or a winger, we'll use Raphinha in this instance, would take that position. But we've got to the time now where I don't like it when we do this. Like, for instance, I used to say when Kane got injured, you're already one player, obviously a huge player down. Then you move Son out of his best position to vacate or to fill the vacated position, and then someone from the bench who can't even get to the first team. It's like you're making the squad weaker twice by moving Son out of his best position and then putting someone who plays in Son's position but can't get in the first team. So I've had enough of this. If we want to compete, we need serious competition in all areas of the field, and that's what we said. We've been saying that a backup striker or competition is coming in. And Richarlison could do that part. So maybe why not get Richarlison and a Raphinha?
Because that's going to be 100 million on 2 players.
You're right. But obviously we have players coming out, players leaving the squad. There is Champions League money. There is this 150 million. This is what the money is there for. I know that 150 million was said it wasn't going all on the first team. It will go on the ladies' team. It will go on other stuff within the company and within the stadium or within ENIC and building around the area. But if we want to seriously compete, we need a serious squad to compete with the best, and that means spending money.
That's true. And talking about getting Richarlison / Raphinha, we thought we would look at both of them players. We thought we'd a bit similar to how we were looking at Basuma in statistics. We're going to look at Richarlison and Raphinha and compare how they stack up statistically wise, and maybe it can give us a better judgment of who would be a better signing for us from a statistical point of view. I've got two analysis modes going on. Obviously, I'm going to compare last season, how they both performed.
Yep.
But because Richarlison played majority up front last season as opposed to on the left wing, the stats can be a bit skewed. So I'm going to compare him to last season, and I've got another one comparing Raphinha from last season to Richarlison of the season before when he played predominantly left wing, and maybe there's a bit of a difference. So first of all, here's the on screen now. You can probably see it on your screen. Is that visible for you, Brian?
Once I make it full screen properly, let's have a look. Yes.
Okay, good. So we can see here, this is comparing Richarlison and Raphinha from last season. Statistically, obviously, Raphinha got 11 goals compared to Richarlison's 10. Assists-wise, Raphinha only got 3 compared to Richarlison's 5, both in struggling teams as well.
Yep.
So it's not like one's playing for Man City and one's playing for a team load. So they're both in a massive relegation battle. So I think it's fair that you can compare them both. In terms of XG, Raphinha just about edged him out, 11.2 to 10.2 in Richarlison, which is interesting considering you'd think Richarlison would probably get in better goal scoring positions considering he was up front, but Raphinha actually had the higher XG, which I thought was quite telling.
Yep.
But it was for maybe a more offensive side. Expected assists though, also Raphinha, even though he got less assists, he was definitely getting more expected assists per 90, which is very interesting. But it says here, despite Raphinha having more XG, Richarlison was getting more XG per 90 because I think he played less games. So despite Raphinha getting 1 more goal, he actually was from 5 more games. So that obviously has to be taken into account. In terms of shots and shots on target, Raphinha having more shots on goal, but Richarlison having more shots on target. So Richarlison's a bit more of an accurate, clinical.
Quick question, would that count? Because you've got to remember Raphinha takes a lot of free kicks for Leeds.
Yep.
Does that count?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so that would obviously affect that, because I don't think Richarlison takes any, or if he did for Everton, very, very few compared to Raphinha.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and it shows here that Richarlison's a bit more accurate when he shoots. Raphinha shoots a bit more often, but Richarlison's getting it on target a bit more often. So he's a bit more clinical, 28% shooting percentage compared to 24%, so quite a big difference there. In terms of passing, though, I think this is definitely due to Richarlison playing up front, but Raphinha passes a lot more than Richarlison. 25 passes compared to 12 for Richarlison. In terms of assists, Richarlison does beat him out, but key passes is a massive difference. Raphinha only gets 2. Raphinha gets 2 key passes per 90. Richarlison under 1. So that's quite kind of, in terms of getting involved in build-up and setting up his teammates for good quality opportunities, Raphinha is definitely a lot better, albeit it's because Richarlison was playing mostly up front, so he's getting set up mostly than setting up.
Yeah, I think the thing we got to look at this as well. Like I said, Leeds, not just the position they're in the relegation struggle, Leeds were just attack, weren't they? Whereas, especially under Rafa Benitez, they were a lot more pragmatic, Everton, and a lot more direct. So that just eliminates the midfield and getting forward in advance. It was hoofs up there and holding the ball up. So I think Leeds being, let's face it, they're one of the most attacking teams in the country. Even with the league position, they were just under Bielsa, attack. So I think this is, like you said, we'll check with the other stats that you do, but I think this is having a huge factor into these stats.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're because Leeds are definitely more attacking. Although I think they did go a bit more conservative when I'm talking about Leeds when Jesse Marsch came in. They did tighten up a bit. They weren't quite like when how they were as Bielsa. But yeah, you're right. Definitely the two kind of footballing styles, especially when he was under Benitez, definitely makes a difference. Progressive passes, Raphinha much higher than Richarlison, 5 compared to 1.21. Shot creating actions, Raphinha is much higher, 3.67 compared to 2.21. But defensive actions as well, which is I think is quite interesting. Tackles, Raphinha is higher, but Richarlison is a better tackler. He wins more tackles despite Raphinha attempting more tackles, which I think is interesting. Pressures, Richarlison wins on pressures and successful pressures. Interceptions, Raphinha is a bit higher. So both definitely hard workers when it comes to being a forward. Seems like Richarlison a bit better at making tackles, interceptions though compared to Raphinha, which is interesting.
Yep, I mean I think what I will add on that is. With Raphinha, I think his timing and anticipation is slightly better, whereas Richarlison usually loses his body strength, doesn't he, as a defensive tool. So I think he gives away more fouls than actually making tackles. So I can see why Raphinha slightly might edge this one.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Tackles plus interceptions, Raphinha actually wins out, but in terms of being better at those things, it seems like Richarlison attempts it maybe a bit less, but actually wins more. So he maybe conserves his energy in a more smarter way. And in terms of dribbles and stuff, successful dribbles, Raphinha way out in front. Again, being a winger, he's going to have more attempts, and as it shows, he makes double the dribbling attempts than Richarlison does. But the Richarlison has a better percentage in terms of 46% successful dribbles compared to 39 for Raphinha. Carries, again, Raphinha as expected, a bit higher. Carries into the final third, again, Raphinha is higher. But it's hard to do an exact comparison, which is why. These metrics, it may be understandable Raphinha is high, but if we go to the next one, this compares Richarlison from the season before to last season's Raphinha. This is when Richarlison predominantly was playing as a left winger compared to up front. Bit easier to judge, but Raphinha does still win out on a lot of the metrics. That season, Richarlison only scored 7 goals and 3 assists, so it wasn't as impressive. This was during the no-fan season. But shots on target again, Richarlison getting more than Raphinha. Again, Raphinha getting more shots though. So again, Richarlison takes less shots but more on target. So definitely more of a more accurate shooter. Yep. Richarlison seems to be. When it comes to passing, key passes, I think his key passes actually went down compared to being up front, which is interesting. So when he was left wing, he was having less key passes. And progressive passes as well, much less. When it comes to shot creating actions, Raphinha is still way out in front when Richarlison was winger. Tackles, again, very similar. Raphinha attempting more, but Richarlison winning more. Interceptions, Raphinha again, he's the one who comes out on top, which I find quite interesting. And then when it comes to dribbling and stuff, this is where there's a difference. Now, Richarlison actually attempts more dribbles and is actually a better dribbler than Raphinha.
That surprises me.
Which is quite interesting. He actually has a 55% dribbling success rate when he's at left wing. So also his dribbling is a lot better when he was at left wing than compared to when he was up front. So judging by these stats, definitely Raphinha comes out on top, I would say. I think but there are also, I think, suggestions when you look at these stats. If you put Richarlison in a better team, he actually could be he's a more accurate shooter. He's actually a better dribbler when he's playing on the left wing, and they both work pretty much just as hard as each other by and large. So not clear cut who's definitely the better player, but looking at the stats, you'd probably just about say Raphinha is probably the better player. But it'd be interesting to see what either of them would do in a better team.
Exactly, yeah. And with, let's face it, Antonio Conte. I think there's a couple of people put in the comments as well, is that I think we need to go for an out-and-out striker as well. So there are a few people saying that, but if it is to play more centrally on a more regular occasion, I think I would just have to go with Richarlison. But it's opened my eyes a bit for playing on the wing a bit with Raphinha. His defensive stats were actually quite impressive to me.
Yeah, they were. He's definitely a lot hard, definitely is a lot of a harder worker than maybe you would have thought he was. Everyone knows how hard Richarlison works. It's not made such a big deal, though, the work rate of Raphinha, and clearly he's also a very hard worker. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below. Maybe I'll put a poll out. Who'd you rather, Raphinha or Richarlison?